The deep space mission was supposed to be routine. Captain Eric Daniels sat in his command chair on the bridge of the USS Endeavour, watching the stars through the main viewport. They were just passing Neptune's orbit when the alert sounded. "Captain, I'm picking up an unusual signal," said Lisa Grant, the communications officer. She pressed her hand to her earpiece, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's not matching any known pattern in our database." Eric straightened in his chair. "Put it through the ship's speakers." A strange rhythmic sound filled the bridge. It wasn't random noise. There was clear structure to it, patterns that repeated and evolved. The crew fell silent, listening. "That's not natural," Eric said finally. "Can we determine the source?" Science Officer Alan Miller was already working at his station. "It's coming from beyond Neptune, sir. Approximately 2 million kilometers from our position." "Any visual?" "Nothing yet," Alan replied, adjusting his instruments. "Wait. There's something there." Increasing magnification. The main screen flickered, and a massive object appeared. It was clearly artificial, a ship at least 10 times the size of the Endeavour, with a sleek, curved design unlike anything humanity had built. "My God," whispered Karen Young, the military intelligence specialist. "We're not alone." Eric tapped the shipwide communication button on his chair. "All hands, this is the captain. We've encountered what appears to be a non-Earth vessel. This is not a drill. All sections report to stations and prepare for first contact protocol." The next 6 hours were tense. The alien ship remained stationary, continuing to broadcast its signal. Earth Command was notified, and emergency meetings were called among world leaders. The Endeavour maintained position, monitoring but not approaching. Then the alien signal changed. "Captain," Lisa called, her voice tight with excitement. "They're sending us something new. It looks like images, and there's a language component that seems to be adapting to our transmissions." "They're learning how we communicate," Alan said, analyzing the data streaming across his screen. "The rate of adaptation suggests extremely advanced artificial intelligence." "Put the images on screen," Eric ordered. The view screen filled with pictures of what appeared to be alien beings, humanoid, but with striking blue skin and elongated features. They were shown in various settings, walking through corridors of their ship, gathered in what looked like meeting rooms, working with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. "They want us to see them," Karen said quietly. "They're making first contact." Lisa's console beeped. "Sir, they're hailing us directly now. The translation algorithm seems to have reached sufficient compatibility for basic communication." Eric took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change human history forever. Except the hail. The screen changed to show one of the blue-skinned aliens. It wore an ornate uniform adorned with symbols that might have been rank insignia. Its face was angular, with large, multifaceted eyes that seemed to shimmer with inner light. "Greetings, people of Earth," the alien said, its mouth movements not quite matching the translated words. "I am High Commander Zulkar of the Vorsian Collective, representing the Galactica Confederation. We have observed your world and its progress for some time." Eric stood from his chair. "I am Captain Eric Daniels of the United Earth Space Vessel Endeavour. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization." Zulkar made a gesture that might have been a nod. "Peace is our purpose, Captain. The Galactica Confederation spans 27 species across 3 galactic arms. We seek to bring advancement and protection to emerging civilizations such as yours." "That's a generous offer," Eric replied carefully. "What would this relationship entail?" "We would share technology, knowledge, and resources. In return, Earth would join our confederation as a protected member world. Your species would gain access to interstellar travel, advanced medicine, and energies beyond your current understanding." As the conversation continued, Eric noticed something in Zulkar's manner, a subtle condescension, perhaps. The Vorsian spoke as one might to a child, explaining complex concepts in overly simplified terms. After the initial exchange, Eric called a private meeting with his senior officers. "Thoughts?" he asked, Looking around the conference room, Alan Miller spoke first. Their biology readings are strange. The ship's sensors picked up unusual energy patterns from their bodies, almost as if they're partially synthetic. Did anyone else notice the way they reacted when I asked about their relationship with the other species in their confederation? Karen Young asked. There was a moment of hesitation before Zulkar answered. I noticed that too, Lisa said. And when I was monitoring their raw signal, there were data packets they weren't translating for us. They're holding back information. Over the next 3 days, more Vorsians came aboard the Endeavour for diplomatic meetings. Earth representatives joined via secure video link. The aliens were charming, their offers of technology tempting. But Karen and Alan had been quietly investigating. Captain, we need to speak with you urgently, Karen said, entering Eric's quarters late on the third night. Alan followed behind her carrying a data tablet. We've been analyzing the Vorsian database they shared with us, Alan explained. But we also managed to access some restricted files when they linked their systems to ours for the technology demonstrations. What did you find? Eric asked. Karen's face was grim. Patterns, sir. The Vorsians have done this before. They approach a species, offer technology and protection, then gradually take control. We found records of at least 8 civilizations that have been completely subjugated in the last century alone. Alan showed Eric the tablet. They classify species by potential usefulness. Some are listed as resource providers, others as labor sources. Earth has been categorized as a strategic acquisition due to our water resources and genetic diversity. Eric studied the evidence, a cold feeling settling in his stomach. They're not allies. They're conquerors. The next morning, Eric requested a private meeting with Zulkar. When the Vorsian commander arrived in the ship's conference room, Eric was waiting with the evidence displayed on screens around the room. What is the meaning of this? Zulkar demanded. We know what you really are, Eric said calmly. We've seen the records of what you did to the Tyrellians, the Nexus colony, and the others. Zulkar's expression shifted, the diplomatic mask slipping for a moment. You couldn't possibly understand those situations. Each required different management, approaches. You mean different methods of conquest, Eric countered. I've asked you here to deliver a warning on behalf of humanity. Earth will not submit. We know your patterns and we know what you really want. If you attempt to subjugate us, you will face resistance unlike anything your collective has encountered. For a moment, Zulkar was silent. Then, unexpectedly, he began to laugh. The sound was strange, melodic but cold. Your species has barely mastered basic space travel, Zulkar said when his laughter subsided. What possible threat could you pose to a civilization thousands of years your senior? The other Vorsians who had entered the room joined in the laughter. They spoke among themselves in their native language, clearly amused by the humans' audacity. We've given you our warning, Eric said, undeterred. Remember it. Zulkar composed himself. We will return in 6 months with gifts of technology as a show of our genuine intentions. Perhaps by then, you will have overcome these paranoid delusions. As the Vorsians departed the solar system in their massive ship, Eric watched from the Endeavour's bridge. They didn't take us seriously, Lisa said, standing beside him. No, Eric agreed. They laughed. What now, Captain? Karen asked. Eric turned to face his crew. Now we prepare, because they'll be back, and they won't be laughing for long. 6 months passed quickly. The day after the Vorsians departed, Captain Eric Daniels was called to an emergency meeting at Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Military leaders and government officials from around the world gathered in a secure, underground chamber. The mood was tense. General Sofia Martinez stood at the front of the room, her face stern. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 months. 6 months to prepare for what may be the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. She nodded to Paul Johnson, a civilian director from the Global Science Initiative. He stepped forward and activated a holographic display. The Vorsians believe we're primitives, Paul said. They think we'll be waiting with open arms when they return with their so-called gifts. Their arrogance gives us our only advantage. Eric shared everything his crew had discovered about the aliens. Karen Young presented her intelligence findings, showing images of other worlds that had fallen to the Vorsian collective. They follow a pattern, Karen explained. First come the gifts of technology, then advisors to help implement the technology, then security forces to protect their investments. Within 5 years, the planet's resources are being harvested, and the population is either enslaved or worse. General Martinez looked around the room. As of this moment, we are at war. A war the enemy doesn't yet know has begun. The next day, the real work started. In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, the world's best minds gathered. Dr. Olivia Wright, a quantum physicist from Boston University, led a team working on a revolutionary defensive system. The Vorsians use quantum entanglement for their communications, she explained to Eric during his visit to the facility. We've been experimenting with similar technology for years, but they've mastered it. However, every system has weaknesses. Olivia pointed to a small device on her lab table. It pulsed with blue light. This disrupts quantum signals. Right now it only works at short range, but we're scaling it up. When the Vorsians return, they'll find their communications suddenly very unreliable. In another section of the facility, Jack Harris trained special combat units. Jack was a former Navy SEAL with 15 years of experience. He studied the physical information gathered about the Vorsians. They're stronger than us, Jack told his trainees. But their joints bend differently. Their vision is superior in normal light but weak in infrared, and they rely heavily on their technology. We're developing tactics to exploit these weaknesses. Men and women from special forces around the world practiced new fighting techniques designed specifically to combat the alien physiology. They trained with prototype weapons developed based on the limited data from the Endeavor's encounter. Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Phillips oversaw a secret space operation. 12 mining asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter were quietly converted into stealth platforms. Each platform contained one of Dr. Wright's quantum disruptors and a suite of weapons. The asteroid's natural composition helps mask our work, Ryan explained during a secure video conference. The Vorsians won't detect them until it's too late. As weeks turned into months, humanity's preparations accelerated. Old political rivalries were set aside in the face of the common threat. Resources poured into defense projects. Public life continued normally to avoid alerting any Vorsian observers who might be watching from afar. 4 months after first contact, intelligence officer Diane Foster made a disturbing discovery. She had been assigned to monitor a small lunar outpost that the Vorsians had established as a goodwill gesture before departing. The outpost was supposedly automated, gathering scientific data to help the aliens prepare their technological gifts. Diane suspected otherwise. Using specialized equipment, she infiltrated the outpost during a routine maintenance window. Inside, she found not scientific instruments, but military scanning technology. The outpost was mapping Earth's defenses and population centers. Even more concerning were the files she managed to download before escaping. The Vorsians weren't planning to return in 6 months with gifts. They were planning a full invasion in 18 months, giving them a year's advantage over what humans expected. Diane brought this information back to Earth, barely escaping detection. The lunar outpost never showed any sign that her infiltration had been discovered. They're coming sooner than they told us, she reported to General Martinez and the United Earth Defense Council. But they're still underestimating us. Their invasion plans assume we have no space defenses beyond our current publicly known satellites. General Martinez studied the tactical information Diane had recovered. This changes our timeline, but not our strategy. We continue as planned, but we accelerate deployment. 5 months after first contact, the United Earth Defense Council met again to assess readiness. Representatives from each continent presented their progress reports. The atmosphere was more confident than at their first meeting. The stealth platforms are fully operational, Commander Phillips reported. All 12 are in position and undetected. Each one can disrupt Vorsian communications across a radius of 10,000 kilometers. The quantum disruption network has exceeded our expectations, Dr. Wright added. We can now completely sever their communications and targeting systems within seconds of activation. Jack Harris gave his report next. Combat training is complete for the first wave of specialized units. We've developed effective tactics against their anticipated invasion forces based on the intelligence we've gathered. General Martinez nodded with satisfaction. The Vorsians believe we're still arguing about whether they're a threat. Their arrogance will be their downfall. Paul Johnson spoke up. What about evacuation plans? If we fail, we won't fail, Eric interrupted. He had been made an admiral after first contact, given command of Earth's new defense fleet. The Vorsians laughed at our warning. They won't be laughing when they realize we've been preparing for them since the moment they left. In orbit around Earth, the first ships of humanity's defense force conducted silent drills. They were small compared to the massive Vorsian vessels, but they were armed with weapons designed specifically to target alien weaknesses. On the far side of the moon, out of sight from Earth, construction had begun on a larger vessel, the UES Defiance. It incorporated all the new technologies developed in the months since first contact. Its captain would be Susan Clark, a veteran naval officer with a reputation for unconventional tactics. As the 6-month mark approached, tension mounted. Global militaries moved to high alert under the cover of routine exercises. The stealth platforms in the asteroid belt stood ready. Special combat units took up positions at key locations around the world. Earth was ready, but there was no sign of the Vorsians. Where are they? Paul asked during a tense council meeting exactly 6 months after the aliens had departed. Preparing, Diane answered grimly. According to the intelligence I gathered, they're assembling a larger force than originally planned. They'll be coming with an invasion fleet, not a diplomatic mission. Admiral Daniels stood at the window of the council chamber, looking up at the night sky. Let them come. Humanity warned them and they laughed. Now we'll show them exactly how serious we were. Across Earth, people went about their daily lives, most unaware of the threat looming above them. But in hidden bases and secret facilities, humanity's defenders waited, ready for the fight that would determine the fate of their world. 3 months after the expected return date, the Vorsians finally arrived. The first sign was a strange distortion near Jupiter's orbit. A massive fold space portal opened, tearing the fabric of space. Through this unnatural hole came the Vorsian fleet, over 300 ships of various sizes, led by an enormous vessel twice the size of the one from first contact. Earth's long-range sensors detected them immediately. Silent alarms flashed in command centers around the world. The moment humanity had prepared for was here. Fleet Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, hidden in lunar orbit. Her ship was the largest Earth had ever built, but it looked tiny compared to the approaching Vorsian vessels. They're broadcasting, her communications officer said. It's being sent to every frequency we use. Put it through, Susan ordered. The face of High Commander Zulkar appeared on the main screen. He looked exactly as Admiral Daniels had described. Blue, skin, elongated features, and eyes that seemed to hold a deep arrogance. People of Earth, Zulkar said, his voice smooth and confident. We have returned as promised, though we bring more than just gifts. We observed primitive defense preparations during our absence, a disappointing response to our generous offer of alliance. For your own protection, we are establishing a security presence in your system. Do not resist. It will only make the transition more difficult. Susan muted the transmission and opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. General Martinez appeared on a side screen. They're not even pretending anymore, Susan said. General Martinez nodded. They think their approach was undetected. All stealth platforms report ready. Defense forces worldwide are on standby. What about the lunar outpost they established? Susan asked. Officer Foster neutralized it last week. They don't know we're aware of their plans. Susan looked at her tactical display. The Vorsian fleet was spreading out, moving past Saturn's orbit in standard conquest formation. They were taking their time, confident and unhurried. Permission to execute Operation Thunderstrike? Susan asked. General Martinez conferred briefly with someone off-screen, then turned back. "Granted. May God be with you, Admiral." Susan turned to her bridge crew. "Send the coded signal to Commander Phillips. Tell him to wait until they're fully committed past Mars orbit." The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. On Earth, millions of people went about their daily lives, still unaware of what was happening. Only a select few knew that humanity's existence hung in the balance. For 2 days, the Vorsian fleet moved steadily inward through the solar system. They sent messages to Earth demanding surrender and cooperation. World leaders responded with requests for negotiation and delays, following the plan to keep the aliens overconfident. When the first Vorsian battlecruisers passed Mars orbit, Commander Ryan Phillips received the signal he'd been waiting for. From his command center on Earth, he activated the stealth platforms hidden in the asteroid belt. "All platforms, execute Disruption Protocol Alpha," he ordered. Across millions of kilometers of space, 12 asteroid platforms powered up. Each one generated an expanding field of quantum disruption. Invisible, undetectable until it was too late. The fields expanded rapidly, enveloping the spread-out Vorsian fleet. Aboard the Vorsian command ship, High Commander Zulkar was reviewing the final invasion plans when his communications officer suddenly looked up in alarm. "Commander, we've lost contact with the forward ships," he reported. "A temporary interference," Zulkar said dismissively. "This primitive system has unusual radiation bands." Another officer called out, "Weapons targeting systems are failing. The quantum network is experiencing cascading disruptions." For the first time, concern flashed across Zulkar's face. "Impossible. These humans don't have the technology to—" He never finished his sentence. The ship rocked violently as something struck it from behind. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Clark watched as Earth's hidden defense fleet emerged from concealment. Smaller and fewer than the Vorsian ships, but armed with weapons designed specifically to target alien weaknesses. "All ships execute attack pattern Delta," she commanded. "Target their engines and communication arrays first." Earth's ships darted among the massive Vorsian vessels like wolves attacking much larger prey. The aliens struggled to respond, their coordination shattered by Dr. Wright's quantum disruption fields. Susan opened a channel to Lieutenant Frank Murphy, who led the Special Operations team. "Lieutenant, you're cleared for boarding action." "Yes, Admiral," Frank replied from his stealth craft. "We're approaching the command ship now." Frank and his team had trained for this moment for months. They wore specialized armor designed to counter Vorsian weapons. Each member carried equipment that exploited specific alien weaknesses. Using the confusion of battle as cover, their craft attached to the Vorsian command ship. They cut through the hull and entered, moving quickly through corridors filled with panicking blue-skinned aliens. The team met resistance but pushed forward. Jack Harris had trained them well. They knew exactly how to fight these enemies, targeting weak joint structures, using infrared lighting to reduce the Vorsians' visual advantages, disrupting their neural implants with targeted electromagnetic pulses. "We're approaching the command center," Frank reported. On Earth, Dr. Olivia Wright monitored the battle from her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. She watched the data streams, making real-time adjustments to the disruption fields as the Vorsians attempted countermeasures. "They're trying to adapt," she told General Martinez over a secure line. "But they can't believe what's happening. Their arrogance is working against them. They keep trying to fix their technology rather than adapting their tactics." In space, the battle turned increasingly in Earth's favor. The Vorsian ships, cut off from each other and unable to coordinate, found themselves surrounded by smaller vessels that seemed to know exactly where to strike. Frank's team reached the command center of Zulkar's ship. They breached the doors and threw in specialized grenades that emitted frequencies painful to Vorsian hearing but harmless to humans. When they entered, the alien officers were clutching their heads in agony. High Commander Zulkar stood defiant in the center of the room. Frank approached him. "Your ship is secured, Commander. You are now a prisoner of Earth." Zulkar stared in disbelief. "How is this possible? You're primitives. Your technology is centuries behind ours." Admiral Daniels had requested to be there for this moment. He entered the command center behind Frank's team. We warned you, Eric said simply. And you laughed. Impossible, Zulkar responded, his arrogance finally cracking. You're savages. How could you possibly have developed defenses against technology you've never encountered? That's humanity's secret, Eric replied. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. We studied you, learned your patterns, and prepared accordingly. You're not the first threat we've faced, just the first from beyond our world. Within hours, the battle was over. Nearly 200 Vorsian ships were captured intact. The rest were disabled or destroyed. Earth had suffered losses, but far fewer than anyone had dared hope. As Zulkar was led away in restraints, he looked at Eric one last time. You don't know what you've done. The collective will send more ships. This is only the beginning. Eric watched him go, then turned to Admiral Clark, who had joined them on the captured vessel. Actually, this is the end of the beginning. Now we take the fight to them. Susan nodded. The captured ships contain the fold space technology we need. We can reach their homeworld. They never imagined we could defeat them here, Eric said. Imagine their surprise when we show up there. News of the victory spread across Earth. People celebrated in the streets, many learning for the first time how close they had come to conquest. But in command centers and planning rooms, humanity's leaders were already preparing for the next phase. 1 month after defeating the Vorsian invasion fleet, Earth prepared for its boldest move yet. In a massive underground hangar beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Clark addressed the crews of Earth's new offensive force. Today we take the fight to the enemy, she told the assembled men and women. Using captured Vorsian ships and technology, we will travel to their homeworld. Our mission is not conquest or revenge. We seek to end this threat permanently and free the other species they've enslaved. The plan was dangerous but necessary. Intelligence gathered from captured Vorsians revealed that their empire spanned dozens of star systems. The collective wouldn't stop with one failed invasion. They would return to Earth with an even larger force unless humanity struck first. Dr. Nicole Garcia led the team that adapted the alien fold space technology for human use. She walked around the captured Vorsian flagship, now renamed the UES, Liberty, making final checks before departure. The fold space drive is functioning perfectly, she told Admiral Clark. I've modified it to be operated by human pilots. We can reach Vorsia Prime in 16 hours. The Earth fleet consisted of 20 ships, 3 large vessels captured intact from the Vorsians, and 17 smaller human craft equipped with adapted alien technology. They carried the best soldiers, pilots, and scientists humanity had to offer. Admiral Daniels would remain on Earth to coordinate defense in case of another attack. Admiral Clark would lead the offensive fleet. As they said goodbye, Eric handed Susan a small flash drive. Intelligence from our prisoner interrogations, he said. Maps of their homeworld defenses, access codes, everything we could get. Good hunting, Admiral. Susan took the drive. We'll be back, Eric, with good news. The fleet departed Earth under cover of darkness. Once beyond lunar orbit, the ships activated their fold space drives. Reality itself seemed to bend around them as they tore open a hole in space-time and slipped through. The journey was disorienting for the human crews. Fold space travel involved passing through dimensions beyond normal human perception. Many experienced strange dreams or hallucinations, but Dr. Garcia's modifications worked perfectly, and 16 hours later, the fleet emerged near Vorsia Prime. The Vorsian homeworld was a stunning sight, a giant blue-green planet orbited by 3 moons. Its continents were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, showing how the Vorsians had reshaped their world over thousands of years of advanced development. Most surprising was the lack of defenses. The Vorsians, believing their location unknown, 2 other species and confident in their technological superiority, had left their homeworld virtually unprotected. They never imagined anyone would dare attack them here, Susan said as she viewed the planet on her command screen. Their arrogance is our advantage once again. Using the stolen access codes, the Earth fleet approached Vorsia Prime without raising alarms. They positioned themselves above the capital city and prepared for the ground assault. Major Henry Lewis led the main ground force. A veteran of conflicts on Earth, He had been chosen for his calm leadership under pressure. His team consisted of soldiers from dozens of nations, united in humanity's first off-world military action. "Remember your training," Henry told his troops as they prepared to deploy. "Stick to the plan. Our goal is the central government complex. We need their records and control systems intact." The landing was swift and met little resistance. Most Vortians had never seen combat. Their conquests were usually carried out by automated systems against much less advanced species. They surrendered quickly when faced with determined human soldiers who knew exactly how to counter their few defenses. Within hours, Major Lewis and his team secured the central government complex, a massive structure of crystal and metal at the heart of the capital city. Inside, they discovered the truth about the Vortian collective. "Admiral, you need to see this," Henry reported via video link. "We've accessed their central database. It's worse than we thought." The records revealed the full extent of the Vortians' empire. They weren't just conquerors. They were systematic exploiters who harvested resources and genetic material from subjugated species. Their seeming benevolence was calculated to lower defenses before they struck. Most disturbing was the discovery of their plans for Earth. The complete extraction of all water and conversion of the human population into a biological computing network. The same fate had already befallen 17 other worlds. "They've been doing this for thousands of years," Henry said, scrolling through the records. "They see other species as resources, not equals. They classify planets like mining companies classify ore deposits." In another section of the complex, Lieutenant Mary Peterson discovered holding areas where representatives of conquered species were kept for study. She ordered her team to free them immediately. The aliens they liberated were diverse. Some had features like insects, others resembled reptiles or sea creatures. All showed signs of experimentation and abuse. They were initially terrified of the humans, but quickly realized these new aliens were different from their captors. One tall insect-like being who called himself Creek was able to communicate using a translation device. He had been a scientist on his homeworld before the Vortians came. "You have done the impossible," Kreetka told Mary. "No one has ever challenged the collective and won. How did your species manage this?" "We were underestimated," Mary replied simply. "The Vortians thought we were primitive. They didn't realize that humans are at their most dangerous when threatened." When the Vortian High Council was finally captured and brought before Admiral Clark, their spokesperson, Counselor Draz, remained defiant despite their defeat. "You may have taken our homeworld, but the collective spans hundreds of star systems," Draz said. "This temporary victory means nothing. Our forces will rally and destroy your little planet." Lieutenant Peterson stepped forward with data tablets, showing evidence of the atrocities committed by the Vortians. She had lost her brother in the initial attack on Earth, and her voice was tight with controlled emotion. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," she declared. "While you were busy defending your capital, we sent communications to the worlds you've subjugated. We told them what happened, how humans defeated your invincible fleet. They're rising up as we speak." Mary activated a large screen showing real-time reports from across the Vortian Empire. On planet after planet, oppressed species were overthrowing their Vortian overlords. "Your empire is falling apart," Mary continued, "because you made one critical mistake. You underestimated what people will do when they have nothing left to lose." For the first time, fear showed in the Vortian counselor's eyes. The other council members began arguing among themselves, blaming each other for the disaster. Admiral Clark watched them silently, then turned to Major Lewis. "Secure them in comfortable quarters. They'll face justice, but we're not like them. We don't torture prisoners." She opened a channel to Earth. Admiral Daniels appeared on screen. "Mission accomplished, Eric," she reported. "Vorzia Prime is secured, but this is bigger than we thought. We've found representatives from dozens of enslaved species. They want to meet with us to form an alliance." Eric nodded slowly. "Bring them to Earth. It's time for humanity to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors but as liberators." As Susan ended the transmission, she looked out at the alien world they had just freed. What had begun as a desperate defense of Earth had become something much greater, the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history.